Your objective today is that you can solve for a missing value in a two-step equation by earning at least a 7 out of 10 on your exit ticket today. Before we go ahead and start talking about that, let's quickly do a recap of what we did yesterday. Yesterday we talked about translations. Can you take an algebraic expression and translate it into a verbal expression, and vice versa? Can you take a verbal expression and translate that into an algebraic expression? Let's go ahead and take a look at two examples. Example 1. It says translate the algebraic expression into a verbal expression. So we need to take these numbers and we need to turn them into words. So as I read this out loud, I'm going to go and I am going to write exactly what I am reading. So I'm going to say that that is 3 times m plus 7 equals negative 14. Now, one thing that I do want to point out here is that there are multiple ways of saying certain words. So instead of saying 3 times m, some of you might go, I want to say the product of 3 and m. Product also means that. You could say, I want to find the sum of 3 times a number m and 7. Instead of saying equals, some of you might want to go, I want to say is. So there really is never, when you are writing these out, or if you are verbally stating that, there really is never one way to say something. But if you are writing verbal expressions, you write exactly what you read. Example 2. Translate the verbal expression into an algebraic expression. So it says the difference of 2 times a number x and 5 is 4. So if we were to pick out some of the important keywords here that we need to know the word difference. Difference means subtraction. And one of the things that we talked about yesterday is when we start talking about the product of, the difference of, the sum of, the quotient of, whatever comes after that is really what you're trying to find, in this example, the difference of. All right, so it says that it's 2 times a number, which is x, and 5. So we know that we have to take those two terms right there and we need to subtract them. So we have 2 times a number, so times, that's multiplication, 2 times a number, x, and 5. All right, now we need to know that this word is means equals, so we want to say that 2 times x minus 5 equals 4. Let's go ahead and start taking a look at our objectives today. All right, this is a lot of writing, a lot of reading, bear with me. A two-step equation will look something like 4x minus 1 equals 7. On one side you notice a variable and an integer, and on the other side you notice it's just an integer. I have some steps here. Now these are steps that I share with my kids. If these are steps that you do not like, or if your teacher has taught you a different way of solving a two-step equation, I would highly encourage you to do what you feel comfortable with. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my strategy that I teach with my kids. So even though this is a two-step equation, I do actually have 4 steps here. All right, so step 1, when you are looking at an example, you want to box the variable in the coefficient and then circle the integer. Step 2, we want to cancel the circle out by using the additive inverse property. So notice that I have both C's bolded there and in purple. That's going to be big, and that kind of you can make the connection with those. Additive inverse property states that if you take a number and add its opposite, it's going to equal 0. Step 3 says you have to bring the box down and simplify the rest. Notice that the word bring and box both start with B. I've bolded them and put them in purple. Step 4, you're going to take the inverse of multiplication or division, which I like to say this is everybody's favorite steps. So while this is a lot, bear with me. Let's take a look at an example. Example 1, 4c plus 7 equals 19. So a strategy that I always do, I always pop that line right down the middle, well, where my equal sign is. All right, and then it said in step 1, we need to box the variable with the coefficient. So I notice that I have the 4 and the c. I'm going to box that. And then it says we have to circle the integer. So notice that I am boxing and circling everything on one side of the equal sign. I'm kind of leaving the 19 off there by itself. Step 2 says we need to cancel the circle out. So how we cancel this out is we have a positive 7. Additive inverse property states that if you take a number and that's opposite, you're going to get 0. Notice that my circle also makes the number 0 too, or it makes the letter O for opposite. So because I have a positive 7 in there, I need to subtract 7, the opposite. And if I do one thing to one side of the line, we have to make it fair and do it to the other. So I'm going to subtract 7. So step 3 says to bring the box down. Okay, so we bring 4c down and we simplify the rest. So 7 minus 7 cancels out and 19 minus 7 equals 12. And then because we have 4 times c, we have to do the inverse of multiplication, which would be either to 1, divide by 4, or multiply by the reciprocal of 4, or I like to say this is everybody's favorite step. We're going to go ahead and we're going to divide both sides by 4, and when you do 12 divided by 4, you get that c equals 3. And if you are uncomfortable with your answer, I suggest that you take 3 and you plug it in for c and just do quick order of operations to see if 4c or 4 times 3 plus 7 comes out to equal 19. Let's take a look at another example. Negative 5 equals 11 plus 2x. I'm going to go ahead, draw my line down the middle, and we're going to go back to step 1 where it says box the variable and the coefficient. So it's okay. Now we have it all on the opposite side, and that is completely okay. Just always look for that variable. I need to get rid of the circle first by taking the opposite because we want to cancel that out, and that's the additive inverse property. So because it is a positive 11, the opposite of a positive 11 is negative 11. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 11 from both sides because remember we have to make it fair. I'm going to go ahead and simplify left to right. So negative 5 minus 11 is negative 16 equals. Now there's my circle. Remember, circle and the cancel both started with C, so we know that that cancels out. That's no longer there. And then the B was to bring the box down, so I'm going to bring that positive 2x down. Step 4, the inverse of multiplication or division, or I like to say this is everybody's favorite step, divide both sides by 2. And when you do negative 16 divided by 2, you get negative 8. Example 3. Negative 3x minus 1 equals 20, so I'm going to draw my line right down the middle, and I'm going to box and I'm going to circle this. Alright, remember we have to box the number in, or the letter that has the coefficient, circle your integer, and again notice that I'm not even dealing with the side that does not have the letter, the variable. I'm always looking at the side that has the variable. I have to first get rid of my circle. I have to cancel that out, so the only way to cancel a number out is to add its opposite. So because it's a negative 1, I want to be sure to add a positive 1 there, and I'm going to go ahead and simplify. Bring down the negative, the box, the negative 3x, cancel out your circle, and that equals 21. Alright, I notice that I have multiplication here, so I'm going to divide. I like to say everybody's favorite step, division. And when I take positive 21 and divide that by negative 3, I get x equals negative 7. And again, if you are uncomfortable with your answer at any time, take the negative 7 in, take the negative 7, pop it into x, and solve negative 3 times negative 7 minus 1 to see if you will get positive 20. Alright, example 4, 16 equals negative 4x minus 12. Go ahead and try this one on your own. Alright, let's see what you did. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to draw our line down the middle. And I like my box and circle method, so I'm going to box the negative 4x, circle the positive, that's a negative 12. I need to get rid of the circle first, so because it's a negative 12, I know I need to add 12 to both sides. I'm going to go ahead and simplify this, and 16 plus 12 gives me 28 equals, bring the box down, be sure to bring that negative down too. Circle, they cancel out, and everybody's favorite step, we're going to divide by negative 4 on both sides, and when I do a positive 28 divided by negative 4, I get negative 7, and you should too have gotten negative 7. Example 5, go ahead, try 5 on your own. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at what you did. Line down the middle. I'm going to box my positive 5y, circle my negative 12, and I'm thinking to myself, I got to get rid of the circle. Inside my circle is a negative 12, so I want to take the opposite and add 12. I'm going to bring my box down. I have 5y. That cancels out. 33 plus 12 gives me, what's that, 45? All right, I'm going to divide everybody's favorite step. When you do 45 divided by 5, y equals 9. Try number 6 on your own. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. Let's see what you did. Draw my line down the middle. Ooh, this one's a little sneaky. There's my variable. There's my not my coefficient, my constant. Got to get rid of my circle first, so that's a negative 14. So I'm going to add 14 to both sides. And I'm going to bring my box down. Be careful, that is a negative x. Circle cancels out, and that equals 28. Now, a lot of times kids will go, oh, well, okay, that's my answer. But you got to be careful of that negative, because you guys know that if there's not a number there, you have to assume that there is a 1 there. But because there is a negative there, you can almost assume that there is a negative 1 there. So we need to make sure that we actually do divide here, and that we divide by a negative 1 on both sides. And when you divide by a negative 1 on both sides, x equals negative 28. All right, let's see what you can do on this one. All right. Draw my line down the middle. Hopefully by now you guys are pros at this. Box, circle, and some of you are probably like, I don't even need to do the box and circle method anymore, and that's perfectly fine. That shows growth. All right, we got to get rid of that circle first, so that's a positive 6, so I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides, bring the box down. That's negative 5x, cancels out, and that equals 20. Everybody's favorite step. Divide, and 20 divided by negative 5 leaves you with negative 4. Let's take a look at something a little different. Okay, still going to do my same steps here. I'm going to draw my line down the middle. I'll do one with you, you'll do the other one. Box that, circle that. I need to get rid of the circle first. All right, so that's a positive 14, so I'm going to subtract 14 from both sides. I do have a fraction here now, but that's kind of cool. But it'll be fine. Cross the circle off. 9 minus 14 leaves you with negative 5. Now, because this is division, we need to go ahead and, again, you can do one of two things. You can either multiply by the reciprocal, or you can divide by the fraction. I would highly encourage that you do the multiply by the reciprocal here. Now this negative right here, I would also suggest you drop the negative to the denominator. That way you can multiply negative 2 on both sides. In that case, when you do that, that all cancels out, leaving you with m, and negative 5 times negative 2 leaves you with a positive 10. All right, go try this one on your own. All right, let's draw your line down the middle. Let's see how you did here. All right, we box the positive z divided by 6 and circle the negative 11. So I have to get rid of the circle first, so I have to take the opposite because this is our additive inverse property. When you add a number and its opposite, it cancels out, it equals 0. Bring the z divided by 6 down, equals, and then we actually have the additive identity property here. If you take a number and add 0 to it, you know you're always going to be left with that number. I'm going to multiply 6 on both sides because that's the reciprocal of 1 divided by 6. That cancels out, and when I multiply 11 times 6, I get 66.